We like to believe that happiness is a shield. We tell ourselves that if we work hard, if we care for others, if we love with open hearts, we are protected from the chaos of the world. But happiness, true happiness, is a beacon. And sometimes, in the dark corners of a city, there are eyes watching that light. Not with admiration, but with an envy so deep it rots the soul. Dr. Elena Rosewood was the kind of woman who made a room warmer just by walking into it. Born in the quiet, wind-swept plains outside of Chicago, she carried that small-town heart into the big city. She didn't just fix teeth, she fixed spirits. As a pediatric dentist, she spent her days coaxing smiles out of frightened children, her hands steady, her voice a low hum of comfort. By 2015, she had arrived. Dallas, Texas. A new city, a new practice dedicated to low-income families who had never seen a dentist before. She was 35, vibrant, and for the first time in a long time, she was deeply, irrevocably in love. His name was Mateo, a dermatology resident with a smile that matched hers. It was a whirlwind, the kind of romance you read about in paperbacks and dismiss as fantasy. 4 months, that's all it took. They were already talking about lease agreements, wedding colors, a future that stretched out like a golden highway. Her family said they hadn't seen her glow like this in years. She was finally safe. Or so she thought. September the 2nd, 2015. The heat in Dallas hangs heavy, sticking to your skin like a second layer. But Elena didn't feel the humidity. She was floating. Tomorrow was Cancun. Blue water, white sand, and Mateo. She was driving her white Toyota Camry home from her second job, because that's who she was, always working, always building. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat. It was Mateo. They were trading texts, little digital notes of anticipation. "I'm grabbing food. Let me know when you're safe." Safe. Such a fragile word. She pulled into the parking garage of her luxury apartment complex. The concrete walls of a parking garage are strange places, echo chambers where sound travels too fast and shadows stretch too long. It was 7:42 p.m. The sun was setting, casting long, bruised streaks of purple across the Texas sky. She parked her car. She turned off the ignition. The engine ticked as it cooled. She likely reached for her purse. She likely checked her reflection in the rearview mirror one last time. She didn't see the black Jeep Cherokee that had been idling in the shadows, waiting like a predator in tall grass. 2 floors up, a neighbor named Hassan was walking to his car. A parking garage is usually a library of silence, broken only by the squeal of tires. But then, the sound tore through the floorboards. Screaming. Not an argument. Not a conversation. The primal, terrifying sound of a woman pleading for her life. And then, pop. Pop. The silence that followed was heavier than the scream. Hassan froze. His heart hammered against his ribs. A black Jeep screeched past him, tires balding, moving with a recklessness that smelled of panic. Hassan, fueled by a mixture of adrenaline and dread, got into his own car. He saw it as he exited, a body, lying on the cold, oil-stained concrete next to the white Camry. He dialed 911. His voice shook. "There's a woman. There's blood." When the police arrived, the blue lights bounced off the concrete pillars, creating a disorienting strobe effect. They ran the plates. Dr. Elena Rosewood. They pulled her license photo. The woman on the ground, lifeless, still wore the scrubs of a healer. The resemblance was undeniable. Mateo was upstairs. He was calling her. Ring, ring, voicemail. He was texting. "Where are you?" When he came down, the scene was a blur of yellow tape and grim faces. A detective approached him. The devastation on Mateo's face was raw, a crumbling of his entire world in real time. But police work is cold calculus. The boyfriend is always the first suspect. They took him in. They sat him in a sterile room with buzzing fluorescent lights and asked him why the woman he loved was dead in a parking lot. While Mateo sat in shock, crime scene investigators were piecing together the final seconds of Elena's life. It was an execution, but it was sloppy. They found a shell casing, a .40 caliber, and they found something else, a magazine from a handgun, ejected and left on the floor. It was a mistake, a panic move. The shooter had jammed the gun or hit the release in a frenzy. But it was clean, no prints, no DNA, and her purse was gone. Was this a robbery? A random act of violence in a city teeming with it? It seemed plausible, until the cameras told a different story. Shutterstock Explore. The detectives watched the graining black and white footage from the garage, 7:15 p.m. The black Jeep enters. It waits. It stalks. It follows a resident in, lurking like a ghost. When Elena arrives, a figure steps out. Not a random mugger, someone with a purpose. They go to her car, the Jeep reverses, the figure returns. They speed away, but the camera caught something the killer didn't plan for. As the Jeep exited, the light hit the driver. It was a woman. The police released the image. Who owns this Jeep? 2 days later, a man named Carlos walked into the station. He was nervous, sweating. "That's my Jeep," he said, "but I wasn't driving it." He had loaned it to a friend, a woman named Vanessa. Vanessa. The name hung in the air. Carlos told the detectives a story that sounded like a bad movie script. He said Vanessa had threatened him. She told him to keep the police out of it. She offered to pay to have the Jeep painted, to erase its identity. Why? Because Vanessa had a secret. Vanessa was Mateo's ex-girlfriend. Vanessa was 33. She was studying to be a dental hygienist. On paper, she was quiet, reserved, ambitious. But beneath the surface, a rot had set in. She and Mateo had dated for 2 years. They broke up, they got back together, they broke up again. It was toxic. But when Mateo met Elena, he changed. He grew up. He moved on, and he posted a picture on Facebook. Him and Elena, smiling, happy. That photo was the catalyst. It wasn't just a picture, it was a declaration that Vanessa had been replaced. She couldn't handle the erasure. If she couldn't have him, she would destroy the happiness he found. She didn't pull the trigger, though. Vanessa was the architect, not the builder. She recruited help. Enter Ruby, a woman Vanessa met, a woman desperate for money. And Dante, a man with a gun and a price. Police brought Ruby in. She cracked. She spun a lie at first, a carjacking, a kidnapping, but the detectives picked it apart until the truth fell out. It was a hit, a murder for hire. The price of a human life? The price of Dr. Elena Rosewood, a woman who dedicated her life to children? $500 and a promise of drugs. Police searched their phones, and they found the most chilling piece of evidence in the entire case, a photo. It was taken right after the murder. It was Ruby, holding the cash Vanessa had paid her. She had fanned the bills out into the shape of a heart. Getty Images. A heart made of blood money. She was smiling. They had the shooter, Dante. They found the gun in his car. The ballistics matched. They had the driver, Ruby. But the architect, Vanessa, was gone. She had fled to Mexico. For months, she was a ghost. She cut her hair. She changed her life, hiding in the bustling streets, thinking she had outrun her sins. But the FBI, the Dallas police, and the Mexican authorities were a net closing in. 7 months later, they found her. But there was a catch. Extradition is a tricky dance. Mexico would not send her back if she faced the death penalty. The prosecutors had to make a choice: vengeance or justice. They chose justice. They took the death penalty off the table to bring her home. The trial was a spectacle of tragedy. Ruby testified against her former friend. She described how they stalked Elena, how they waited in the dark, how Dante stepped out, cold and efficient, and ended a brilliant life for a few $100s. Vanessa's defense tried to paint her as a victim of circumstance, but the jury saw the truth. They saw the jealousy. They saw the planning. They saw the text messages and the sheer, unadulterated malice. Vanessa was found guilty of capital murder. Life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Dante, the man who pulled the trigger, was sent to death row. Elena Rosewood is gone. The children she would have treated, the family she would have raised, the life she would have lived. All stolen. But in the silence of that parking garage, her echo remains. A reminder that while evil exists, the truth, eventually, always finds a way to speak.